G'day viewers, welcome to another super cool repair video from the Goat Shed. Today we're going to show you how we pull apart on high hand the drop targets. But today is Friday, April 14th, 2023. It's about 19 degrees Celsius outside, which is 66 degrees Fahrenheit. We've had a fair bit of rain overnight, so it's delayed our painting aspirations of the other two cabinets. But needless to say, we have done a video before on, I think we've done a couple on drop targets, but we've probably refined our methods of doing it. We haven't done one for a while, but High Hand has, let's see, 16 drop targets, 4x4. So we've done 3 banks, and we'll share with you now how we do the final bank. That is from stripping it out of the machine and pulling it apart. First job is to remove all the switches off the back plate and all the switches off the front plate. That's just a matter of taking the screws out of the switches. Now, all those switches need to be cleaned. And on a couple of the drop targets we've done, some of the switches had loose contact pads spinning around, so we've gone ahead and repaired those as we've gone. Now let's show you how this comes apart. So we just need to take the screws out of these L brackets here on this side, and on the other side 2 more. We've actually loosened these off to save a bit of time. So now what we'll do is we'll pull the unit out of the playfield. However, what I want to point out is that the adjustment screws, which are these things here, not that you need to adjust them very often, they're actually missing. So we've got a couple of plates around somewhere, so we'll pull them off a rack. That's the rest position for the reset bar. That's where they're at rest. So that one would probably be getting a bit too much stroke. Like, it's obviously work, but seeing as we've got it here, we'll replace it. God knows why they're missing. I mean, that sort of is a bit of a mystery, but needless to say, they're missing. Okay, now we have everything loose. We'll just simply lift the assembly out of the game. Like that. That's very easy. Now, the next job we have to do is take the bracket off the side of the drop target unit that holds the coil. So this is a pretty simple process, just 4 screws. Now we have the drop target unit itself. Take that bracket off. So they must be 1/4 inch nuts, that's the red driver. Now we have brand new targets for this. So see this piece here, that's the bit when the sequence is completed and all the targets are down, that pushes the switch stack on that side closed to tell it that suite of cards are all down. Now Gottlieb called that the sequence completed switch. On a lot of machines, a sequence completed is in a trip bank or a sequence bank, but in this it's on the back of here. So now what we're doing is just taking those L brackets off. This is all pretty exciting stuff, isn't it? But if you've never done this before, it's a good learning curve. Now the screws are coming off the frame. Now these rubber grommets here do wear out. I don't think this owner bought any of those, but we do have these in stock if we need any. But I think so far so good. We've been pretty good. Been pretty lucky. Okay, now we've got that off, we can see the drop targets themselves. Graham's taking those rubbers out now because he's going to give that a polish up.
They're only going to be a light buff because there's not a... We are just cleaning the grease and the dirt off of that mainly.
So this isn't a total restoration. We're just getting this going, but you know, we like to try and do as nice a job as we possibly can. Okay, now what we're going to do now is just removing the circlip off there. Now there's a spring behind there, and I'm just going to point that spring out. Yep. That's it there. So just be careful of that spring.
You've got to hang on to that.
You can lose it if you're not careful. It's just a very light spring to restore the bar.
You might take it out that way.
Now he's going to pull the shaft out the other way. That's the shaft that goes through the triggers. Just gently removing it. They get a bit tight, they get a bit worn in there. We polish the shaft up too. And we have another shaft. If you've watched one of our other videos, we show you how we use one of those shafts. If say you had to change the middle target, it makes life a bit easier. Right, there was the series bar. That was the series bar he just put in there. That's called a series bar. They can break off at the ends.
You've got to take the springs off the triggers.
Now we've got to take the springs off the triggers. See the triggers there?
All right. These will...
Now they come out. Now these triggers do get worn. There's a spring on the back there as well. He's got to take off. Let's take that trigger out and we'll show you. Alright, so here's the trigger. Now often the triggers they wear. This one's just slightly worn. Just there. But it's not too bad, so these triggers will clean up nicely. Some of them get a big groove in them and, you know, you really need to replace them. So he's just taking two springs off. The one on the comes from the top. Out come those triggers. They're all looking pretty good.
I can stay there for a minute.
Now he's got all the triggers out. What he's going to do now is take the front plate off. I don't know, maybe it is the back plate, but 4 screws, very, very straightforward. The L brackets there again. So all up, what we've done so far is preparing this for cleaning. Now, there's a bottom and there's a top.
You've got to take the springs off.
Take the springs off the drop targets themselves. Just turn them over, Graham, so we can show them where the spring sits. There, those springs, they've just got to come off. They'll come off with consummate ease. Now remember, we've got brand new drop targets for this, so...
This one's just fallen off on its own.
Now sometimes you need to replace these springs. So far we've found that these are all okay. They are available as a spare part. Okay, that's the bottom plate there. And now we've got the other plate where the springs, they go through here. They're the ones that pull the targets back up. They're a slightly heavier spring. Both the spring on the drop target itself and here look very similar. It's only a matter of, particularly when they're new, they almost look identical, but one's slightly stronger. It's obviously...
This one's stronger, no, that one's weaker.
Weaker, yeah. There they are there, look. It's hard to see.
That one's very weak and this one's strong.
So the one on the right's the strongest, yeah. Now this will all get cleaned up. Alright, we're good to go. Now all up, that took just on 9 minutes. Now what we've got to do is we've just got to take the Allen screws out with a 9/64 Allen key wrench. Because we've got to get the coil sleeve out. And we've got to check that the coil stop is tight and not worn or anything like that.
We'll give the casing a quick clean, a quick buff.
So it's pretty easy to do. Obviously sometimes you get more drop targets. Interesting machine, like I think Sure Shot No, not Sure Shot, sorry. Big Shot. And what's the 4-player game of Big Shot? Whatever that is.
Hot Shot.
Hot Shot, yeah, they've got 7 targets in them. So there you go, we've got all that out now.
It's ready for the buff.
And we're ready to go and buff it all up. Here's the ones completed back in the machine, all buffed up and everything. You know, they look a whole lot better. You saw the other one. So we've done those other 3. They're all done. Oh no, there's Skanky having a look, see what's going on. Spanky must have went to the pub last night. So once we've buffed all these up on the soft buffing wheel, we'll show you how to put it all back together. Okay, so we're reassembling the plates to the base. We've polished the parts up on the soft buffer. That's about as good as it's going to get. I mean, this isn't a complete restoration, even though it's having a new cabinet and back glass. It's not a total restoration. So, you know, they're not going to get any cleaner than that, or chromed, etc, etc. So, we found those parts. Graham will just show you in a minute. You can sort of see them there. There they are, those 2 screws. We took them off another. So they're the things that limit the reset bar. Yep. As I said, God knows why they're missing. It probably could have lived without it, but look, we'll put them in there. We've got a number of drop targets. I don't know that you'd ever need any of those ever again, so... yeah,
first thing you've got to do is put the springs in at the top bracket, or you'll have a hell of a time getting it later on. They're the tighter springs for the triggers. You've got to hang them.
Okay, so I hope you heard what he said then. I will point out that I've got the brand new omnidirectional microphone. I'll just show it to you. There it is. It's all hooked up, so hopefully it's picking us up okay. You can have it in a couple of modes, so I've got it in omnidirectional at the moment. Okay,
the second bracket down the bottom, the holes, them holes there, the screw holes, have got to be lined up the same as them, so you don't have them back the front. Okay.
So that's important, lining those holes up. We did do one once where we did it wrong, and we had to do it all again. You'll only do it once.
Yeah, these ones you've got to put the legs on. If not, you'll have to do it again later.
So there's those L brackets going on now. As I said, this isn't rocket science, but probably to people when it's in the machine it's quite daunting. But once you take the switches off each side and then you just undo the screws out of the brackets, the whole mech lifts out.
Yeah.
Oh, the only other thing you have to do is unsolder the wires on the coil. That's the only other thing you have to do. But there's the frame now.
Right.
Going back together. Now you can see the holes here where the shaft goes through. Now, just while we got that there, I just want to show you something with the shaft. So here we go, putting the targets in. Now, obviously, it's quite important that you get
you got to double check
the targets in the right spot. So we'll be checking that in a moment.
Just checking.
Ace, King, Queen, Jack. That looks right to me.
You just double check where it's going to sit in the machine. Yep, it's all good. You don't want to have to pull them out again. Alright.
Now the triggers. Now as I mentioned, these triggers are all good. So that's the shaft. Did you polish that shaft, Graham?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was full of gunk. Now the hook bit goes up the top to the spring.
So it's just a matter of lining those up.
So you've got to put the end of the trigger through the hole of the to the drop target.
Once you get it lined up, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Look, he's onto the last one already. Now, if this was a bigger drop target bank, and you had a broken drop target, say in the middle, or toward the middle, what you can do, you can get another one of those shafts and push it through, and then when you get to the point where you need to take the target out, you can just pull the shafts apart. We've done a video on this before, and simply remove one target, and you don't interfere with the others. In other words, they don't fall everywhere. That's called a follow-through system. Now, we used to use that in the typewriter game. All the type bars in the segment where they came up, you had a broken type bar or something like that, or you had to take the type bar out to solder the typeface on, which was fairly common. That's how we used to do it with a follow-through wire. So he's just hooking those springs on now, and they're the heavy springs. Remember we mentioned there's two types of springs? They're the heavy ones that he's doing now. And when he gets this one on, well, when he does the one on the end, we'll show you where they go. I think it's pretty obvious.
And it's best to do it with the drop target down, so you don't have to do the spring as long.
Yeah, so you notice that he's holding the drop target down there. You'll see this one a little easier. So he's got the spring hooked onto the top, and he's just going to hook it over onto the trigger. Oh, he keeps dropping it. Yeah. Actually, I've got to reform the end of that spring hook. It just needs a little bit. Right, so they're all in now.
So they should work. But they haven't got the other spring on to get them
to pull them back, yeah. So they won't latch into place because the other spring that goes on, that pulls them onto the lip, isn't there yet. So that's the next spring that we'll be putting on soon. Just checking to make sure they're all good.
Yep.
Yep, so we're happy with that. So there's how the other springs hook onto the trigger, and now the ones, they'll actually lock up and pull forward. So you can see that spring has the action of pulling it onto the lip of the, so this lip here, when that goes up, this one hasn't got a spring on, that pulls it back over and holds it down. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward too. If you're not good at putting springs on, this will test your patience. Okay, so there that is all in now, looking all nice. So the back plate will go back in now. That's the one with the grommets that have to go in it. So we'll just put those back in now. So Graham's just putting those rubber grommets back in. Now you can buy those new, and if you're doing an order for stuff from PBR and you're going to do a drop target, and have a look at them. If they're bad, you can buy them.
These were pretty good.
Righto, now we'll pop that back plate back on. That's just held on by some screws, and also the L brackets. This is the series bar I've got in my hand here. You can see the hole in the end, so it goes through the shaft that we've already put in. We'll have to pull that out a little bit to get that in. And this is the bar. When all the targets are down, it will move in a direction and push against the thin bit of metal. It's not really a butterfly, but we tend to call it a butterfly, that will close the switches to indicate that the sequence is completed on that target bank. So that's called a series bar. Now, they do break. They can break across here. Hang on, where are we? They can break across here. We actually had one broken on a machine that was sent to us all the way from Tasmania, and that was a hot shot or a big shot, one or the other, and we had to make one up. So Graham's putting that in now. So what he's doing now, he's got it in and he's just pulling the shaft through and sitting it on there.
Yeah, so it's just floating.
So that was the series bar. Now that's the reset bar that you're looking at there. Let's just have a look at the reset bar. Okay, so the reset bar's got the plunger attached to it. So that plunger's all been polished. We've got a new coil sleeve in there. Now it's just a matter of assessing which way that goes back on.
Yep, no worries. So it goes through here, but you've got to have the drop targets up or you won't get it through.
Now, as I said, I hope you can hear what Graham's saying, because I'm not repeating it. This is an experiment in the second half of this video. And just in case you didn't hear it, because it is important, you've got to have the drop targets up to get this bar in. Now, obviously, if it's the first time you do it, you take photos, and or if you've got another drop target bank to refer to, just sometimes they're just opposite to the way the one is you're working on.
Yep.
So there it goes, he's getting that all done now.
Yeah, if all's good, that shouldn't have to come out again, so you can put a clip on that.
So see the shaft hanging out the end there now, he's going to put a clip on it, and did that one have the little nylon bearing?
No.
No nylon bearing in that one?
No.
Some of these have nylon bearings in the end of that shaft, that follow-through shaft. Little white nylon bearing.
Right.
Okay, now we've got it. That's the bracket that holds the coil and bracket on. So the bracket for the bracket. Pop that on.
Sometimes you've got to figure it out.
So there, that is in place now. We've got to screw that down. I wonder how many people will watch this video till the end. If you don't watch it to the end, you won't learn. And if you don't learn, that will make Spanky very sad. That's why we do these videos, people, so you can learn. As we do these live, in a lot of cases, sometimes we'll make a mistake too, and if we do so, we try and point it out to you. Everybody makes mistakes. Drop targets, well, you've got 4 on this to do, so by the time you've got to the 4th one, you're just about an expert on it. Now we mightn't do another for 3 or 4 months, who knows? Or we might do another one next week.
Right. Okay.
Now the reset bar.
Now I've got to put this spring on.
Spring has to go on. Now we'll just show you that spring. That spring is like a trigger spring, a hair trigger spring. It's a small spring. It's shaped with an L at one end and a hook at the other. Where are we? There's the hook at one end, and there's the L at the other. And it just goes through there. It is going in, all fingers and thumbs at the moment.
Now the end of that spring goes through that hole. See that hole there? Once we get this on, we can get it better.
He just hasn't got it right yet. He'll show you when he's got it done. There's the hole he's talking about that it had to go in, just where the spring hook is. And then down the bottom there, it goes in and rests against that screw that's sticking up there. Graham, can you point to that screw where it's hooked around? Yep. Right there.
That holds your bracket on. So you can't put the spring on until you got the bracket on. Okay, if that makes sense.
Well, it does, because the screw won't be there, will it?
Yep.
So we're just putting the clip onto the end of the shaft so it can't fall out. Okay, so now pop the bracket back on, or the coil bracket with the coil in it. We already put that together, put a new coil sleeve in it. Try and put a new coil sleeve in these when you do them, folks. It does make a big difference, and if you do have a buffing wheel, give that plunger a buff, because it's easy when you've got it all out. So that's just a matter of now screwing everything in. And the only last thing we'll be doing is adjusting the stroke on that coil. So the coil has to be bottomed out. In other words, the plunger has to be hitting the coil stop. And all the targets have to have a little bit of over travel, just a fraction of over travel. That's to make sure that they latch. Remember, they latch on the lip. And if that spring wasn't on there that we were talking about earlier on, or it broke, or we have seen them rust and break, the target just won't latch. It'll go down, it'll score points, but it won't latch on restore. So you just finger tighten these screws, make sure that everything's perpendicular to the frame so that the coil's not going in on an angle. So we just weren't quite happy with that. We'll just adjust it just a touch more. You see that move. Once again, keeping it perpendicular. Always remember to check for that. You get that going in crooked, it can bind, or it'll bite into the coil sleeve.
Now all we've got to do now is put the butterfly switch on.
There you go, they're all dropped down and they've all restored. And we'll just make sure we've got a bit of over travel. Just, there it is.
So just tighten them up.
Tighten it up now, and we're happy with that. Now the other thing that's got to go on now is that thing that we called a butterfly. I probably should look up what the factory call it. But that's the thing that the switches, when the targets are all down, it pushes outwards, closes the switches to indicate a completed sequence. That's it there.
Best to do it with the top targets down.
There you go. Now it just sits on there. There's a bracket that goes there and it screws in.
And then the switch screws to the bracket. Good.
Now we can refit this into the game. Okay, now Graham will reset that, and just keep your eye on this. Right, you'll see that pop up. See that? That's come up. So the series bar just released that, and it fell in and allowed the switches to touch. I might have implied that worked the other way earlier on, but so they're all down now, and when they go up, that does too. All right. Time to put it back into the game. So there's not much more to do now. So that's the sequence completed. Switch on another bank so you can see it all set up there. And you can see the butterfly down in here. So all those targets are down at the moment. If we reset those targets, you'll see the...
And you can't because it's on the floor.
Oh yeah, that's right. We'll reset those targets like that, and the butterfly comes out. But what we're going to have to do is move it because it's sort of sitting on the mat. Okay, so I'm pretty sure Spanky is very, very happy with those drop targets. There's Skanky and there's Spanky. And Spanky says, Graham has done another great job on the drop targets, and we won't bother showing you how we fit it back in because that's only very boring. But once again, if you've watched the video up till now, please give us the big thumbs up. And this has been another Goat Shed presentation.